Do whatever you want." "Cowboy," said the Apache woman who was tied to the ranch's fence, but then the rope dug deep into Nayeli's arms, marking her skin with angry red lines. But her eyes never lost their fire. She stood tied to the rancher's fence, exhausted, bruised, and barely able to remain upright. Yet she still looked at Dawson with defiance rather than fear. Her whole body trembled with pain, but she held her chin high, refusing to let him think she was broken. He approached slowly, careful not to startle her, yet she still flinched as he reached for the knot. The moment his fingers brushed the rope, she whispered a line he would never forget, half threat, half surrender. "All edge, do whatever you want, cowboy." But it wasn't a plea. It wasn't submission. It was her way of saying she was done fighting for her dignity, done expecting mercy. Dawson realized she wasn't offering herself. She was daring him. "You're hurt," he said quietly. She didn't answer. Her breathing was heavy, each inhale sharp with pain from the bruises covering her shoulder. He loosened the rope carefully, giving her enough room to move without falling. When her knees buckled, he caught her, but she shoved him away with the last strength she had. "I'm trying to help," he said. "I don't need your help," she snapped, though her legs wobbled beneath her. When she finally steadied herself, he asked, "What's your name?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Nayeli." He nodded. "I'm Dawson." She murmured his name under her breath as if memorizing it. Her posture stayed tense, but she wasn't fighting him now. Dawson noticed the dark bruises down her arm, older injuries. Not from him, not from today. Someone had hurt her deliberately, repeatedly. "Who did this to you?" he asked. She looked away. Silence stretched between them until she finally spoke, her voice thin and reluctant. "Men who trade women. They took me. I escaped." Dawson's jaw tightened. "They chased you here." "They'll come back," she said. "Anyone who helps me becomes their enemy." "Then I guess I'm their enemy." She stared at him, stunned. It wasn't bravado. He meant it. No man had ever stood for her without wanting something in return. She didn't understand him, but she didn't distrust him either, not fully. "You should have left me tied," she muttered. "You didn't belong in ropes." She didn't respond, but the flicker in her eyes showed his words hit deeper than he could know. Dawson guided her gently toward the barn. She didn't hold his arm, but she didn't pull away either. Every step revealed how injured she truly was, her ankle unstable, her shoulder throbbing, her breath shaky, but her spirit remained unbroken. Just as they reached the barn, Nayeli froze. She stared at the horizon, her face draining of color. Riders. The dust cloud grew bigger, fast, determined. "It's them," she said, her voice low and trembling with rage rather than fear. Dawson opened the barn door. "Stay inside." She didn't want to hide, but she obeyed. The moment the door shut, she pressed her eye to a crack. 4 riders approached, led by a scarred man wearing a black coat. Cade Mercer. Nayeli's stomach twisted at the sight of him. He was the shadow she had run from, the man whose voice still haunted her when she closed her eyes. Cade stopped several feet from Dawson. "Afternoon, rancher. We're looking for a girl who escaped us, Apache, tough little thing." Dawson replied flatly, "You won't find her here." Cade smirked. "That's so? Then you won't mind if we look around." "I mind," Dawson said. "Turn around." Cade's eyes narrowed. "You don't know who you're talking to." "I know exactly who you are," Dawson said. "And I'm telling you to leave." Cade's hand drifted toward his gun. Dawson's revolver was out in a heartbeat, not aimed at Cade's chest, but at the ground, a message that he didn't fire first unless forced. "You pull that gun," Dawson said calmly, "and this ends ugly." Silence. Then Cade laughed. "You're brave, cowboy. Brave or stupid. But we'll be back. Don't think for a second we're done." He snapped his reins and his men turned their horses around. Nayeli watched them leave, but knew Cade never backed off. He retreated only to attack later. When Dawson finally opened the barn door, Nayeli stormed out, her anger shaking her voice. "You shouldn't have done that." "What was I supposed to do? Hand you over?" "Yes," she cried, surprising herself. "It would have kept you alive." "I'm not afraid of them," Dawson said. "You should be," she whispered. "They destroy everything they touch." "I won't let them destroy you." Those words cut through her like lightning. She stared at him, unable to comprehend why he cared. No one ever cared. Not for her. not without wanting something in return. "You don't even know me," she said. "I know enough." He helped her sit on a crate inside the barn and began treating her wounds. She tensed at every touch at first, but slowly relaxed. As she realized he wasn't hurting her, he was healing her. "You asked who hurt me," she whispered. "Cade's men. They raided my tribe. They traded the women they captured. I fought them. They punished me every day I wouldn't break." "But you didn't break," Dawson said. She swallowed hard. "I thought surviving made me weak." "It made you stronger." She looked at him with new eyes, confused, softened, unsure. "They'll come back tonight," she warned. "They follow patterns. They hunt in the dark. Then we'll be ready," he said. She blinked, stunned at the word "we." No one had ever included her in anything. No one had ever stood beside her without trying to control her. "You're not hiding," Dawson added. "If you want to fight, you fight with me." Her heart pounded, not with fear, but something else, something dangerous. Hope. As night settled over the ranch, Nayeli stood beside Dawson, no longer a prisoner tied to a fence, no longer a runaway. She was a warrior again, and for the first time since her escape, she wasn't fighting alone. Night settled over the ranch in a tense stillness, the kind that made every sound sharper. Nayeli stood beside Dawson near the barn entrance, her injured ankle bandaged, her shoulder tightly wrapped. Pain still pulsed beneath her skin, but she ignored it. She had survived far worse. What mattered now was what was coming, because she knew. Cade Mercer never left without finishing what he started. Dawson loaded his rifle with quiet, deliberate movements. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't loud. He fought like someone who had learned to protect by necessity, not by pride. Nayeli watched him closely, trying to understand why a man she barely knew had chosen to stand between her and a gang capable of destroying everything he owned. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice low but steady. He didn't look at her as he replied, "You already said that, and you're still ignoring me." "I'm not ignoring you," he said. "I'm choosing my side." She swallowed hard. "You don't know the cost."
"I'll pay it."
The simplicity of his words shook her. She wrapped her arms around herself, not out of fear, but because no one had ever spoken with such certainty when it came to her. Dawson finally met her eyes. "Tell me what scares you the most." Nayeli hesitated. The truth wasn't easy to say. It felt too raw, too close to the bone. But she answered anyway. "Losing the freedom I just found," she whispered. "Being dragged back into the dark. Becoming property again." "You're not property," Dawson said. "Not here. Not anywhere." Her breath caught in her throat. She looked away before he could read the emotion on her face. A sudden, distant rumble of hooves made them both freeze. "They're back," she said, her voice tightening. Dawson handed her a revolver. "You know how to use one?" She nodded. "I learned because I had to, not because I wanted to." He gave a faint smile. "Then we'll give them something to regret." The riders grew closer, the sound of their horses slicing through the quiet. Nayeli's grip tightened around the revolver. Her heart beat fast, not with fear but with anticipation. She had run for so long, survived on instinct and desperation. But tonight she wasn't alone. Tonight she stood with someone who believed she deserved protection, someone who believed she deserved more than what she had been given. As Cade and his men came into view, Dawson stepped forward, placing himself in the open while Nayeli remained partly hidden behind a wooden post. Cade halted his horse, his mouth twisting into an amused grin. "You really think you can stop us, Cowboy?" Cade asked. Dawson didn't blink. "Yes." Cade's men spread out, closing in. One rider tried circling toward the barn, but Nayeli aimed her gun, stopping him in his tracks. She stepped into the open then, no longer hiding. Cade's eyes narrowed. "There she is." "Thought you could run forever, girl?" Nayeli's voice was calm, cold. "I didn't run tonight." Cade laughed. "You think this rancher can save you? Men like him die easy." "Then try," Dawson said. The tension snapped like a whip. One of the riders reached for his gun. Nayeli fired first, shooting the dirt inches from his horse's hooves. The animal reared, throwing the man to the ground. Dawson moved instantly, firing a warning shot that forced another rider to dive behind a fence post. Cade snarled, "You've signed your death sentence, both of you." He drew his gun, but Dawson was faster. With a powerful shove, Dawson knocked Cade from his horse. The two men struggled in the dirt, fists connecting with bone. Cade swung wildly, driven by rage. Dawson fought with precision, each punch fueled by the thought of the bruises on Nayeli's body. One of Cade's men tried to charge at Dawson, but Nayeli stepped between them, pointing her revolver directly at the rider's chest. "Don't," she warned. The man froze, shocked by the fury in her eyes. Cade broke free and scrambled toward his gun. Dawson moved to stop him, but Cade grabbed a handful of dirt, throwing it into Dawson's eyes. Dawson stumbled back, blinking through the sting. Cade leveled his weapon at him. "I told you, Cowboy." A gunshot tore through the night. Nayeli stood behind him, her revolver smoking, her hands trembling, but her aim perfect. She had shot Cade's hand, knocking the weapon to the ground, but not killing him. She didn't want his blood on her conscience, but she wanted him stopped. Cade screamed, clutching his wounded hand. Dawson lunged and slammed him against the ground, forcing his arms behind him. The remaining riders looked at their fallen leader and knew it was over. One shouted, "We're done! We're leaving!" Another helped the injured rider back onto his horse. They didn't wait for orders. Without Cade's control, they were nothing more than frightened men, fleeing the consequences they long avoided. Within minutes, only Cade remained, pinned beneath Dawson's knee. "You won't cage me," Cade spat. "You already caged yourself," Dawson replied. Nayeli walked forward, watching Cade struggle. She had imagined this moment so many times, his downfall, his humiliation. But now that it was real, she felt something entirely unexpected. Peace, not revenge, not victory. Peace. She spoke to him quietly, her voice steady. "You don't control me anymore. I'm free, and you can't take that from me." Dawson tied Cade's hands with the same rope that once held Nayeli to the fence. It felt poetic, perfect even. They would turn him in to the nearest sheriff at dawn. When the dust settled and the ranch was silent again, Nayeli finally allowed herself to breathe. Her legs weakened, and Dawson caught her before she fell. "You saved my life," he said softly. "You saved mine first," she replied. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The battle was over, but something deeper had shifted. Between them, something neither fully understood yet. She looked up at him, eyes shimmering with exhaustion and something warmer. "What happens now?" Dawson brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Now you decide. Stay here, leave tomorrow, choose your own path. Whatever you choose, it's yours." Nayeli felt a tightness in her chest loosen for the first time in years. She wasn't property. She wasn't prey. She finally had a choice. And as she leaned gently into Dawson's steady embrace, she realized something she never thought she would feel again. She was safe. She was free, and for the first time, she wasn't running anymore.